So, my first name is actually Charles. My middle name is Etta, and my dad's name's Tucker, and I'm married to Alexander Carver Sutton Jr. And my grandmother, Edna Mae Tucker, named most of her grandchildren, and she named me CharlesEtta. Charles is after my mother's dad. And what's interesting about Papa, we called him Papa in Arkansas, is that Papa was born, he was the birth of a rape, and he was an only child. And I think some white people like raped his mother, and they lived in Social Circle, Georgia. And then that whole family, the Day family, moved to northern Louisiana. And then the Etta is from my father's grandmother, so my great grandmother, she was the Etta, and she was full-blooded Native American and Choctaw. So half of my uncles are half Native American, but that's not in my blood, but it is in my blood, to kind of say that. And then somehow there's Cherokee in there as well on my father's side. So there's Choctaw and Cherokee and African, and also some other some white people from Texas, eastern Texas. And my grandmother who named me, Edna, my story that I just want to say about her, which is also, I think, kind of like helped to form me, is that her mother, Christina, had 5 husbands. And they all died except for the last one, who was like our grandfather. And all we know about him is that he was a cowboy. So he was actually an African American cowboy from Tennessee. And they lived in Oklahoma, but then instead of, I guess, getting a divorce or everything, he went off with the cattle and everything and moved off to the hills of Dakotas. And I think that kind of like colors my world. I grew up in a town that was probably 98% white, and it was a town that was an oil town. So it was the headquarters of finance and research and development for Continental Oil Company. So it was a very, very rich town that had a lie saying that they were all middle class. And then, so I thought I grew up in a middle class town until I moved to San Antonio, Texas. And then my eye opened up to a lot of things, of all the oppression that I had been living under as well, and the lies. But Ponca City was basically a very upper middle class town. And they controlled everything. They controlled businesses that came in, who could come in, who could live where, all kinds of things. So I was always fighting and asking questions. And we had a real active Ku Klux Klan in the area as well. So I grew up being completely socially, economically, and everything oppressed, and kind of wanting to fit in, but also wanting to fight. And I would compete in campfire and stuff with everyone, even though we had our own little black club with all of the other white clubs and everything. But I was always neck to neck with Paula Baker. I can remember her name now. And we would be the two who would sell the most cookies every year. And one year I think I outsold her but they still wouldn't let me be the number one. So I had a lot of those things that I might be the best or the one doing all the work, but wouldn't get the acknowledgement for it. So used to those kinds of experiences and things. And I also had complex about my skin complexion and didn't know that I was as fair as I am. I still don't see it, like really. I'm the fairest in my family. So the skin tones like go all the way down, and I always wanted to be a whole lot darker than I am. And I always made up that when I was married, because of my grandparents and everything, that our kids were going to come out darker, and they didn't. So like all kinds of weird things that you do, but I think because of that, and some people would say I was in the band and different things, they say, "Ooh, you just blend in with everybody." They were like trying to say that like that was a nice thing. I was like, I don't want to be blending in with anybody. So that kind of warrior thing in there. And I believe most of the organizations and any clubs or anything that I get into, I'm always looking for people who look like me, or all of us who are oppressed, and wanting our voices to be heard and done and speaking out. So I've always been a voice for the people who can't talk. And then the spiritual part of me, everybody's always told me I'm spiritual, and all of the people that I have asked to be my guides or my mentors and everything, they've all, each and every one of them says, no, you're going to teach me, we will teach one another. And I'm like, what in the hell can I be teaching them? It's like, I don't get it. But that's been a refrain. And another thing that I noticed about myself is that at my father's funeral, Uncle Parrish did the wake. So we did a Ponca ceremony, a wake for my dad. And then the next day we had the a Baptist minister officiate the ceremony at the funeral, and then we had a priest, Catholic priest, do the burial. And those men, they said they had never been together. So the Christian, the Catholic, and the Native American, they had never been together, and they were so happy to be able to communicate and be together and all of that kind of stuff, like I was like shocked, so it's like bringing them together so that they could like talk and share, and accept things from one another. That was good. And what that brings up is that anything that I have like asked my family to do, they accept it. They would accept it without question and unconditionally accept all the things that I would say. And I could see death and told them that an uncle I hadn't seen in over 20 years, I saw him briefly, and when in California, went back home, and I told my mother and my grandmother, I said, Uncle Kenneth is going to die. You all better get out there. And they didn't question me or nothing. They got on a plane and they went out there. And fortunately, they got there a day before he passed. But it's like, how did I know that? Like, there are things like that that I just know and just come to me. And I guess my family has known it all along, but they've never disrespected me or told me, oh, you're crazy, or that, or how did you know? So there's that aspect. And then the other thing is that You know how you go to people and you have readings, or you have people like talk to you, or you get something printed out. Everybody said that I always have spirits and ancestors around me. And when we went with the grandmothers to Gabon, grandmother Bernadette and that their whole tribal community and stuff, they said I had ancestors with me. So all the little kids and everybody was coming to me because I guess I was the ancestor lady. You know, so stuff like that. And they tell me, so what do the ancestors want us to do? What do they want to eat? And I've been trained through the International Black Summit and with you know Malidoma, right? Malidome. Anyway, with them in terms of that, yes, you can talk to the ancestors and just listen to them and ways of speaking to them and that type of a thing. So I just listen, and whatever comes through, I'll like express it. You know, so since I'm older than 60 now, so now I'm like 72. So I think I'm only now I'm still just stepping into what I've been told since I was little, you know, about my connection to the spirit world, my depth of knowledge and connection, which I think I have been maybe a little bit afraid of at certain times, but sometimes not. And I know that if I'm listening or in a space of receiving, things will come through to me. It's just what we call getting yourself out of the way. It's like if I get myself out of the way, I can receive what I need to receive. I have this vision of us to like listen and hear, not to defend one's position, but can you like really hear what's being said, and can you really hear my experience? Can you really just hear it? It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you or that you've done anything, but this is how it landed over here. And for many of us, this is what we experience ongoingly every day. You know, so don't say, oh, that's not me, or I didn't do that or anything, but like, how can you get to where you can actually hear what's being said to you or what's being told? And I see it a little bit, but like not a lot. And I don't think that we have to go back to a place of where our voices can be extinguished. Again, that's what I don't want, the voices to be extinguished. I want them to come up, and to be out there. And that it is really all good. It's what we've come through, is what happened. It is history. It is what it is. And how are we going to be moving forward? And that's the work that I'm still doing and where I am. And I'm just happy and blessed, I guess you'd say, that the friends that I have and the communities that I have built for myself, we can be in each other's listening. We can disagree. We can like not get it. Like I have two friends like, Charlie, how can it be all good? You always saying it's all good. Well, this is not all good. I said, yes, it is. Look where you are now. You're different to where you were from yesterday. See, that's good. No, Charlie, it's not all good. Yeah, it's hard to explain that concept, but I do believe it is all good. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hurt, the pain, the sorrow. It's all necessary.